Music's most powerful moments rarely happen on scheduled stages. Sometimes the greatest connections between artists and their fans occur completely without warning, in the most ordinary places imaginable. These are 12 unforgettable moments when pop and rock stars surprised fans when they least expected it. If moments like these are exactly what you live for, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another. Number 12. Ozzy Osbourne.
Take what you want, girl. Why don't you take what you want from me? Take what you need from me.
Wax museums are built on the illusion of stillness, and in 2010, the Prince of Darkness turned that illusion into pure chaos. Seated motionless on a couch inside Madame Tussauds, dressed in his signature all-black outfit, Ozzy blended seamlessly among the surrounding figures. Fans wandered over, sat beside what they assumed was his replica, and leaned in for photos. Then he screamed. The reactions ranged from full sprints across the room to complete emotional collapse.
He's got real hair on his arm.
Hello. The footage spread immediately across early social media platforms, racking up millions of views before viral moments were even a common concept. For a man who had spent 4 decades shocking audiences from concert stages, doing it quietly on a museum couch turned out to be one of his most effective performances ever. Number 11. Metallica. At the 2013 Orion Music and More Festival, a band called Halen was listed on the schedule for a noon set on one of the smaller stages. Nobody paid much attention. When 4 figures walked out and launched into the opening notes of Hit the Lights, the crowd took a moment to process what was happening before absolute pandemonium followed. The band listed themselves under that pseudonym on the official schedule, keeping the secret completely intact until showtime. What followed was a full performance of Kill 'Em All, their 1983 debut album, played front to back in the afternoon sun. For a band that had spent 3 decades selling out stadiums worldwide, performing a secret noon set for a modest crowd was a genuinely generous act of fan appreciation that attendees still talk about to this day. Number 10. Steven Tyler. Aerosmith had sold over 150 million records worldwide when Steven Tyler delivered one of his most memorable moments of 2015 entirely for free on a Moscow street corner. A young busker was mid-song when a familiar figure appeared behind him and simply began to sing. The busker did not notice immediately. The crowd did. Tyler joined in without announcement, and the duet lasted the full remaining length of the song. Tyler stayed afterward to take photographs with both the performer and the growing crowd that had flooded the surrounding area. For a frontman who had filled arenas since the early 1970s, this 2-minute sidewalk performance captured a warmth that most controlled promotional appearances never could. The busker later described the experience as something he still struggles to fully explain in words. Number 9. Paul McCartney. On a Tuesday afternoon in July 2009, pedestrians moving through Lower Manhattan had no reason to look up. Then a familiar face appeared on top of the marquee of The Late Show, with David Letterman on Broadway, acoustic guitar in hand, and began to play. The appearance was connected to a run of McCartney shows at Citi Field, with word spreading rapidly across social media. Within minutes, the NYPD was managing a crowd that had materialized seemingly from nowhere. The impromptu set ran just over 15 minutes, featuring classics that needed no introduction. For a man who had played Shea Stadium in 1965 before 5,600 screaming fans, a chaotic midday sidewalk crowd was a completely different kind of energy. Those who stumbled upon it accidentally described it as a moment that simply did not feel real until it was already over. Before we continue, which of these surprises would have sent you into complete disbelief? Were you ever in the right place at the right time and stumbled into something you never expected? Drop a comment below and let us know where in the world you are watching from. Number 8. Bruce Springsteen.
Keep our freedom. Lord, there's got to be another way.
During his 1988 European tour stop in Copenhagen, a street musician was playing guitar near the city center when a man in a plain jacket walked up, nodded toward the instrument, and asked if he could have a go. The musician handed it over without recognition. A few opening notes into the river, the surrounding pedestrians began to stop, and a small crowd gathered around one of the best-selling recording artists in American history, performing on a public sidewalk. Springsteen had built his entire reputation on music as a shared human experience, something that existed between performer and audience rather than above it. That afternoon in Copenhagen was not a publicity stunt. It was simply who he was away from the spotlights, and the local press that covered the moment captured something his arena shows never quite could. Number 7. U2. On the morning of May 6, 2015, commuters moving through the 42nd Street subway station in New York City had no reason to expect anything unusual. Bono and the band had set up on the platform in full disguise, wigs and baseball caps in place, playing to indifferent commuters who shuffled past without a second glance. It was a genuinely humbling few minutes for one of the best-selling rock acts in history, all captured for a segment on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. Then the disguises came off. The shift in atmosphere was instantaneous. The same commuters who had passed them 30 seconds earlier were suddenly pressed together, phones raised, expressions torn between disbelief and joy. I still haven't found. What I'm looking for and desire filled the station with a warmth that rush hour rarely produces. The band had sold over 150 million records by that point. But the moment one woman recognized Bono mid-song and grabbed her friend's arm told the whole story. Number 6. Eddie Van Halen. Widely regarded as the greatest rock guitarist of his generation, a musician who rewrote what the instrument was capable of doing with a single solo on the band's 1978 self-titled debut, his most enduring off-stage reputation was not built on technique. It was built on generosity. Throughout the late 1980s and 1990s, Eddie Van Halen developed a habit of scanning the front rows during performances and identifying young fans, particularly young guitarists, watching his hands with the focused reverence that only another player would recognize. During a California show in the early 1990s, he spotted a teenager in the front row who had been watching his every move for the entire set. At the end of the final song, without announcement or ceremony, Eddie walked to the edge of the stage and handed the boy his guitar. Not a spare, not a prop, the one he had just played. That ritual repeated itself in cities across the country, one teenager at a time. Before we get to the top 5, what is the most unexpected place you have ever encountered a musician, famous or not? Some of the best stories happen when no one is looking. Let us know in the comments. Number 5. Dave Grohl. At a Foo Fighters show in 2018, a fan in the crowd was holding a handmade sign and wearing full Kiss makeup. The sign asked to come up and play guitar. Dave Grohl stopped the show and waved him up. What happened next caught everyone on stage completely off guard. The fan, known as Yayo Sanchez, launched into Monkey Wrench with a precision and energy that had the capacity crowd erupting within seconds. Grohl's reaction, stepping back in absolute disbelief and declaring the fan the king of the show, was completely unscripted and became the most watched moment from the clip when it spread online. The Foo Fighters had spent over 2 decades building a reputation for treating shows as genuine two-way experiences, and this moment crystallized exactly why that reputation existed. Handing the spotlight to a fan in Kiss makeup and watching it pay off was perhaps the most Foo Fighters thing that has ever happened at a Foo Fighters show. Number 4. Michael Jackson. Record stores in London and Los Angeles occasionally reported something unusual throughout the 1980s and 1990s. A figure in a hat and a surgical mask would browse the aisles quietly for 20 or 30 minutes before approaching the register. The clerk would process the purchase. Then the glasses would shift, and the clerk would realize they had just rung up the best-selling recording artist in history. Jackson was, by numerous accounts, genuinely shy in uncontrolled public settings, and record stores were among the few places he sought out regardless of the chaos recognition brought. At a London shop in the early 1990s, he reportedly stayed for over an hour after being recognized, taking photographs with every employee individually. Thriller, released in 1982, remains the best-selling album of all time, with over 66 million certified copies worldwide. Yet the man behind it spent meaningful parts of his private life browsing record bins like anyone else who simply loved music. Number 3. Garth Brooks.
I could have missed the pain, but I'd have had to miss.
Arena concerts do not typically pause mid-show for an unrehearsed conversation with one person in the crowd. But during a stop on his 2014 comeback world tour, Brooks spotted a woman near the front holding a handmade sign that read, "Chemo this morning, Garth tonight, enjoying the dance." He stopped the show. He walked to the edge of the stage and sat down. What followed was not a performance designed for cameras. It was a private moment that happened to have thousands of witnesses. Brooks sang the dance directly to her, close enough that the exchange felt more like a living room than a venue. When the song ended, he gave her his acoustic guitar. He had sold over 157 million records in the United States by that point, more than any solo artist in American music history. But the woman's expression in that moment suggested none of those numbers mattered in the slightest. Number 2. The Beatles.
My life has changed in so many ways.
On the morning of January 30th, 1969, Londoners moving through the Savile Row area began hearing something unusual drifting down from above. What they heard was Get Back, performed live for free with no tickets required by the 4 musicians who had fundamentally altered the course of popular music over the previous decade. The rooftop of the Apple Corps building at number 3 Savile Row became, without warning, the site of the final public performance the Beatles would ever give. It lasted 42 minutes. The Metropolitan Police eventually arrived and asked the band to reduce the volume. They played through the request until the final song ended. Don't Let Me Down, I've Got a Feeling, and One After 909 echoed across the rooftop. With a looseness and joy their controlled studio sessions rarely captured. Director Michael Lindsay Hogg filmed the entire performance, preserving one of the most discussed 42 minutes in music history.
My baby says you're traveling on the one after 909. I said, move over.
Number 1. Freddie Mercury. On July 13, 1985, at Wembley Stadium in London, a band took the stage that many music journalists had quietly written off. Queen had not released a major hit in several years, and the critical conversation around them had cooled considerably. Live Aid featured an extraordinary lineup across 2 continents, and expectations for each act were measured accordingly. What happened in the 21 minutes that followed defied every reasonable expectation attached to it. The AO call and response Mercury initiated with 72,000 people that afternoon was entirely unplanned. It simply happened, as though the moment created itself. Bob Geldof later said Queen were absolutely the best band of the day.
Shivers down my spine, body's aching all the time.
David Bowie, Elton John, and Paul McCartney all performed at Live Aid. each giving remarkable performances. But the consensus that emerged, and has held firmly ever since, is that Freddie Mercury stood at Wembley before an estimated television audience across 150 countries and reminded the entire world, without warning, exactly what a live performance was capable of being.